in interpersonal, in like our social relationships, there's certain conventions, and some of what you're doing in circling or in intentional society or with any of these practices, you're kind of pushing on these conventions. You're like, well, can we step a little bit outside of it? Can we step a little bit of outside of it? And we're kind of stretching a little bit. And one of the things that I've often heard in circling, people say that, well, circling is not really a safe space, right? It's a brave space, right? You're stepping in here and it's like, things might kind of trigger you, or things might you might not like things. People aren't trying to be nice, right? We're just kind of speaking our truth. And sometimes it might land in a way where somebody doesn't like it. But I am curious how you've navigated this aspect between, being a warm, supportive, and maybe somehow providing psychological safety, which is very necessary for people. And, especially when people have a lot of trauma, they could very easily go over that line where they lose that psychological safety. And we all have a different threshold for how unsafe we can feel. So how do you balance that kind of moving into, moving past conventions and moving past boundaries, stepping on toes, and then, also not hurting people or helping people out when they're like overwhelmed?
Yeah. Yeah, well, our spin on that, very common like debate and characterization of what kind of space is this, is that we are neither a safe space exactly, nor a brave space exactly, but we value what we call meta safety. And that is the okayness to not be okay, and to be okay about the not okayness. And if you need another layer of recursion, you can recurse again, it's the what can you name? Your example just a second ago of like saying, oh, I notice I'm feeling triggered right now. Like, that's very different than you're just being inside of it and it comes out as rawr, just like whatever, emotional outpouring from the trigger, from your nervous system in fight or flight saying, do this, and going to that just like fused strategy there. But if you're able to step back and say, I notice I'm feeling quite angry right now. Like, all right, that's a layer of remove there. And okay. And maybe you do feel brave enough to say that, to name that. And maybe you don't feel even like brave enough to bring that out at the point in time. So all we say is that we value meta safety. And if you have the okayness at this layer to say, I notice I'm feeling angry or whatever emotion, like, okay, great. If you don't feel like you can make that move, can you notice that you feel like you can't make that move? And can you name that, like, I notice right now that I'm struggling with whether I should share something or not. Like, you didn't even say the like I'm angry thing, but like there's another step of remove. And can you access that? Great. If you can't, eventually you will. We can come back to it. If you're really like, if you're inside of something, we say like, take care of yourself first, hang up the call, do whatever you need to come back to yourself and regulate and self-soothe. But to be able to bring that back into the space whenever we do have that holding, whether we've made object of that thing, whatever it is that's happening. And when we're able to bring that object back into this space, we can just set it out there, in between us, in front of us. And then we can hold it together and we can support each other in holding it. And if somebody in IS says, I notice I'm feeling something, real strong right now, the response is, there's a kindness there. There's a space holding for it. And even if you come out with just a rah, 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 I hate you, I don't know, that's, extreme there. People are going to kind of go, oh, okay, whoa, okay. What can we notice about this? What can we hold? What can we make space for? But especially if it doesn't come out as a direct, very attacking, cutting kind of interaction, we found that it's pretty easy actually And in at least in our culture and in our space, in our community, like it's very much a norm for us. You know, like, okay, great. Somebody's feeling triggered. Cool. What kind of space can we give them? And what kind of support? And we don't need to push them. We have we've gravitated, you know, our center of gravity towards more of a supportive and a pull model. Hey, there's something already pulling on you. It's not our job. We don't need to like poke you and prod you and provoke you into, going out to some edge or past some edge or losing. Like, that's not what's needed. But giving each other a kind and welcoming space to deal with triggers and feelings and emotions and conflict, in fact, has been so successful. I would say that we've had people talk about conflict and how do you do conflict resolution and how do you do mediation, and I'm almost like, we have so few examples of actually something that that feels like conflict resolution, because if you are able to name it as it arises, we can feel like we're on the same team and on the same side together. And so often, and that doesn't feel like conflict. I'll say conflict is not a thing. Conflict is a feeling. Conflict is a state or an experience. That's not 100% true, but I'm just going to like lean into that here of conflict is a feeling. And if you don't feel that fight or flight, if you don't feel that escalating conflict energy and tension inside of you, then so much becomes easy and possible to work with. Even the conventionally, like, seemingly intractable of somebody just like, oh, I just have this feeling that I don't like you. Or like, that would be like really verboten to say in an office or, a classroom or something like that. But if we are able to hold this from a perspective, and perspective taking is so key to the whole growth journey, from a perspective of like, oh, I'm experiencing a judgment of you right now. That framing right there, it's not identified with you. It's not your identity, so you're not invested in it. Oh, I notice this thing happening. I have it, rather than I am this thing. Being able to, oh, I have this thing. I don't know. It just unlocks so much space and spaciousness to work with all of this.
Yeah, that's beautiful framing. I like how you laid all that out. And there was a couple of things that were coming up. Like, I was just in a circle yesterday, and the facilitator, she was sharing this. Like, sometimes there's something really like challenging that comes up for us in circling, and we don't know how to bring it. Like, right, we don't have like the courage, or we feel like we don't know how to say it. Like, oh, it might really hurt somebody. So she came up with this model that she calls onioning. And basically, it's like you can give the top layer of the onion. Like, you don't have to go deep into it. You could give the top layer of the onion where it's like, well, I'm with this really difficult thing, and like, I'm really struggling to say it right now. And just bringing that already is bringing awareness to something.
Yeah. So yeah, I love the onion metaphor there. And yeah, it's also kind of the going meta move. If you can't name the thing at this level, pop up a layer. And can you name the thing from that layer?